So hello everyone and welcome to our Bath Digital Festival event. It's Bath Unlimited, concept and collaboration over digital platforms. I hope you're all safe, well and enjoying the festival so far, and thanks for joining us. I'm Rob Dawson, I'm from Invest in Bath. It's Bath and North East Somerset Council's business facing service, and we're here to help people start, grow and succeed in business. You can find out more about what we do at investinbath.uk. We want this event to be fully interactive, so please put forward any questions you have in the Q&A section below. And Bath Unlimited as a brand, we're on Twitter and LinkedIn, so you can use the hashtags BDF2020 and Bath Unlimited to keep the conversation going on social media. The event's being recorded too, so there'll be a chance to review or share on the Digital Festival's YouTube channel and actually on the festival's website too. I'm going to introduce our panel for the day. So Bob, could you introduce yourself first, please?
Hi, my name is Bob Mitten. Hello, everyone. I am co-founder and creative director of Mitten Williams and developed the Bath Unlimited campaign brand and website.
Thanks, Bob. And Katja?
Hi all, I'm Kat. I work for Björn Happelt here in Bath in the business development team.
Claire?
Hi everybody, I'm Claire Fennell. I am Head of Culture at Future Publishing, also here in Bath.
Thanks, Claire. Richard?
Hi there, yeah, I'm Richard Godfrey. I run Rocket Makers, so we're a software development company in Bath.
And last but not least, Shannon.
Hi everyone, I'm Shannon. I'm a business engagement officer and part of the Invest in Bath team and in Bath and North East Somerset Council.
Thanks, Shannon. And could you please just introduce Bath Unlimited brand for us?
Yeah, so the impact of COVID on our local economy has been really hard hitting, affecting many businesses and individuals. So in response to this, a new campaign has been launched which celebrates and showcases Bath and North East Somerset's dynamic, successful, world-class companies and their talented employees. So the concept of Bath Unlimited arose from conversations in the Economic Recovery and Renewal Partnership Board. So Bath Unlimited is designed to promote and celebrate the area and the flourishing business and sectors, which many are global leaders in their field, and they promote the wealth and talent and expertise in the local workforce. We also feature new business every week on social media, so it's a great way to follow and find out unique facts and short stories of the featured Bath businesses. So the campaign, which was launched on the 1st of October, it's a collaboration between Bath and North East Somerset Council, law firm Royds Withy King, brand and design agency Mitten Williams, and the University of Bath. So I'd really like to just thank them all for their time and their resources to make this collaboration happen. I'd also like to send a special thanks to Chris Stevens from the Holborn Museum to help with he helped with the concept. So I'm really excited to start this exclusive event, and we'll hear from some of these brilliant, amazing people behind the businesses featured on Bath Unlimited, how they've embraced digital technology through the pandemic and what makes their company unlimited.
Thanks very much, Shannon. I think to give people a flavour of things, we've got a quick teaser video as well. So I'll just share my screen and play that for you now. That was a very short video just to introduce the brand. Very excited to see all the companies listed there. So I think we'll kick off the webinar really by speaking with Bob Mitten, who, as Shannon said, was one of the people behind the concept and the brand. So firstly, Bob, I'd be keen to get your ideas of your input on where the actual concept came from and the inspiration behind it.
Sure. Back in early June, I was invited along with Richard from Rocket Makers, so it was about the same time, to contribute to the discussions between the council and various local businesses and to look at some initiatives and a campaign to sort of support Bath and North East Somerset's economy, to get perhaps residents and businesses feeling a bit more confident in the diversity of the economy and sort of attract new businesses to the region, essentially to promote Bath's hidden talents. I had personally been invited to contribute following our Made in Bath project, because back in February, Mitten Williams had organised a series of Made in Bath talks at the Holborn Museum, and following on from our Made in Bath book and exhibition, where we had showcased some of Bath's hidden talents and the makers and creatives in Bath. And in the audience was one of our clients, Kevin Peake, the Director of Marketing and Business Development at Royds Withy King, and he was on the Economic Recovery Board, so that's how all the connections happened. So when we got to chatting early June, we were trying to sort of identify sort of the aims of the initiatives and the campaign. And I guess one, it was about trying to enhance the perception of Bath and North East Somerset's economy. Also that it's not just about Jane Austen, there's some really amazing stuff that's going on here. And certainly that's what I've sort of discovered. I'm trying to get over the contemporary aspects, as it's not just about the traditional. Then there was a sort of a short-term aim, which was about building confidence for residents and businesses to deliver some projects that are trying to say that this is what this means in reality. Let's have a look and share some of those stories, some of the amazing stories of the companies in Bath. And accepting that initially we're trying to get something done quickly, because this was back in sort of June and the summer, and didn't know how long things were going to go on for. So it was accepting that what we were going to do is not necessarily going to be perfect. It was more about trying to get something done. What's that phrase? Done is better than perfect. So it was trying to get about getting something done with the view that we would be able to carry on and in the longer term, develop and create and more things, more initiatives, and do more on the campaign. And I guess the long-term aim was to sort of position sort of Bath as a real place to do business, a go-to destination for businesses. So June and July, we met via Zoom about every 2 weeks, and to get the project going, and sort of took it from there, really.
Brilliant. Yeah. So with sort of having on Zoom and you say sort of getting things done, how did you really embrace digital technology? Did it enhance productivity or communication? How did that work?
I've been thinking about this recently, and I wonder whether it would have happened as quickly without Zoom and some of the using the digital tech. I've often found with the Zoom calls that people are able to get together. They can spare half an hour. If you're meeting physically, you have to sort of add on the travel time. So I was always amazed how many people we managed to get together at the start of the project, all together, all inputting, all sort of hearing their points of views. And so those Zoom calls, which happened fairly regularly, we were able to sort of get a lot of people together quite quickly to get the input in, to get the project started. So that I think was very, very helpful. And internally we're using sort of Slack and some of the channels that have been as digital tech that's been around for some time. So Mitten Williams was using that to sort of share our ideas. And then in terms of actually, we got to the stage where we thought, okay, we've got this sort of brand and idea that we're going to put forward. How are we going to build it? What are we going to build it on? And I'd sort of suggested to Kevin, so I worked quite closely with Kevin throughout this, sort of the idea of just using Squarespace. Now I'm not a developer, I'm a designer. In January, I hadn't sort of touched Squarespace, so I knew of it. And I said, well, look, I don't necessarily think it's a perfect platform for every digital project, but for this particular project, I think it could be ideal. You know, it's a template driven sort of site. But as a designer, I found it incredibly easy to use. I was able to get stuff up pretty quickly. I was able to sort of put designs up and then share them with the team quite quickly. You know, we made the team at Roy Drury King contributors. You know, we made members of the, you know, the council sort of contributors like you know, Shannon. That was sort of great having you on board, Richard. So so there was a lot of contributors there, and also although that had to be managed quite carefully in terms of who was doing what when, again, I think that really helped deliver the project quickly and efficiently and made it happen, really. Of course, we had a deadline, and that was just the other thing to mention. Right early on in the process, we said, well, let's put a deadline in place because you need a deadline to make things happen, and we delivered on the deadline. So I was delighted about that.
Thanks, Bob. So in your view, what were the critical success factors there in terms of briefs and roles and responsibilities?
I think probably having quite a clear, succinct brief right at the start was very, very helpful. Kevin and his team had sort of started to pull this together. That made a big difference. So we knew we had a tight brief right at the start. I heard a phrase a few months ago about, in terms of creating things online and via Zoom, a tight, loose, tight approach. So you have a tight brief at the start, then have a fairly loose approach in terms of the creative process and pulling things together, and then you sort of review it, and it's quite a sort of a tight procedure at the end. And that sort of very, very simple framework, I think, applied here. So once we'd done that sort of tight briefing, we went away, developed the ideas. I shared it with the book group that had been put together, so the council members and various Kevin and his team, and we sort of shared the ideas. Once that we got the go-ahead on the concepts, we went away, developed the website and all the campaign stuff, and then we met up again to sort of review it quite a little bit later on. So that, I think, really helped. Secondly, I guess the clear roles was really, really good and made it happen. So it was a very small, tight team, and I don't think it would have happened as quickly if we hadn't have got a clear sign-off at the start. And then primarily it was Kevin and his team at Roy Drury King were developing and pulling together a lot of the content.
Working with the businesses, yeah.
With the businesses and gathering together the stories. And I know you guys at the council were helping a lot with that. I was getting almost daily emails from Kevin in terms of content and stories. And then because it was, I was then putting it into the site and then sharing it, but it was a sort of in effect, I was in sort of looking after that brand and the website, and I looked at Kevin to sort of look after the bulk of the content. I think just having that very tight team, but touching base with the wider group on a regular basis, that really helped. And I also sort of think the whole Squarespace system for this particular project, I thought worked very well. It's I found it quite an iterative process, you know, co-creation. We would try things, and if they didn't work, we would drop them. And if we didn't get the right content, we would drop it. It wouldn't necessarily be right for every single digital project, but it seemed to work very, very well for this.
It did. There's a lot of back and forth for sure. I can vouch for that. And I had a question as well about, clearly with this project, it was based on a partnership. You and other partners kindly contributed your time, and it was towards this one project at the end. Whilst if you were working on a commercial basis with a client, how do you think that would change the approach, whether that have an impact or present any challenges?
Yes, I mean, I guess would it present any challenges? I think probably delivering it via using the digital tech that we use, so the various platforms. I do think taking that forward, would definitely consider those for other commercial projects, without a doubt. And I've certainly learnt a lot in terms of briefing process has been, I thought, has been great. I thought the way it worked in keeping the team tight was very good. And I've been pleased with the whole sort of the platforms that we've used, that trying new technologies that again has worked, and I would take forward into more commercial projects. Sure, you know, we were all volunteering our time to make something happen, and yes, that probably obviously contributed to sort of the success, because it was a much tighter team, and the approval processes and the decision-making processes were a little bit different. But I would definitely take some of those ideas through to commercial projects.
That's really good to hear. And well, you can see the results of Bob and the team's work on bathunlimited.org. We haven't got the chat function enabled, but if you just pop that into Google, you should be able to find the website easily enough. We've got an A to Z section there, which case study features. I think we've got 17 firms case studied at the moment. And I want to bring in some of these companies now for a bit of a discussion as well. So could start with you, Katja at Buro Happold. Really, my first question is, what makes Buro Happold Unlimited?
Thanks, Rob. For those of you who don't know Buro Happold, we are quite a large engineering consultancy. We have been founded in Bath nearly 50 years ago. And to date, we're still based in Bath in the centre on Lower Bristol Road. We have an office of nearly 500 people just here in the city centre. Internationally, we have nearly 2,000 staff. We're working across the globe and offices in New York and Dubai and Hong Kong, etc. But still, our heart and our core is here in the city, which enables us to get involved in really exciting projects. And locally, we're still very heavily involved in projects like the Westonbirt Arboretum or the Bath Abbey footprint. We're now working on the Temple Quarter Enterprise Zone in Bristol. So these are the kind of local projects that we're still very much involved with. But we're also working on projects like the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London, or the Olympic Stadium, the Louvre in Abu Dhabi, which is a fascinating museum, airports in Changi and Singapore, etc. So it's a really large scale, or quite a range of different projects that we get involved in. Technology is very much at the core of a lot of the work that we're doing. So we do have a technology specialist team in-house who are developing technology infrastructure for our clients, like Jaguar Land Rover, Dyson, Amazon, these kind of clients. So we absolutely have to be at the forefront of technology at any time. And I think what we've seen is that all the kind of trends that we could see developing have just been massively accelerated over the last few months during COVID. And the working environment has very much changed for us. I think for me, actually, it has improved in many ways, because the collaboration with our international colleagues is much easier, because everyone is just really getting used to using technology. And suddenly colleagues that I've been just emailing with for years and years, I now see on camera, and you can communicate much better. So that's quite a positive change for us. And yeah, we're really pleased to be part of Bath Unlimited as well. It's been something that's been really important for us as a company. We've been very involved in local initiatives, looking at, what can we do to contribute to Bath as a place where people want to live and work and play, really, because that's what we do as designers. We create spaces where people want to spend time in. So we've been working with lots of local companies and the council, etc., to look at what it is that we need to do to diversify the employment opportunities in the city. How can we attract young talent? And when we have it here, how can we keep it and make sure that when students come to the city, they actually stay afterwards to work and continue living in the city. That's it for me, I think.
That's great, Kat. Thank you. Claire, I'd like to ask the same question to you, if that's okay. So what makes your business unlimited?
Yeah, thanks. So, so I work for Future Publishing, which many of you have probably come across as a Bath business over the years, and you'd probably be familiar with some of the history and the story of Future. I think what makes us unlimited is that story and the fact that we have really transformed as a business, particularly from a digital perspective, over the course of the last few years, from pretty challenging publishing market. We're historically a magazine publisher. We started out in Bath in 1985, I think it was, with Amstrad Action, which is a PC or a technology magazine. Now we have over 200 brands globally, 2,000 colleagues globally. Our heartland is Bath, but increasingly we've got more and more colleagues across the UK, Europe, America and Australia. So I think the transformation that we've been able to achieve through technology to move from being a magazine publisher solely to having a really diversified media platform essentially, and to drive our revenues through digital media, e-commerce, events, and it has meant that we've been able to weather the last few months probably much more successfully than a lot of publishers because of that diversification, and I suppose a big part down to the amazing talent that we have in our business as well, a lot of whom are based in Bath. You know, our tech teams are predominantly based in Bath. So yeah, it's been an amazing journey for the business over the last few years, and super exciting right now because we are continuing to grow. We are bucking the publishing trend. We're hiring quite aggressively within technology, sales, editorial. Yeah, so it's exciting times.
Thanks, Claire. That's fantastic to hear. It's great to hear about your story and the journey, which clearly you're talking about diversification there, bucking the trend, and actually growing during what's such a difficult year for a lot of our business community. So it's great to hear. Can't wait to hear more about that shortly. Richard, we'd also like to ask you about what makes Rocket Makers Unlimited and your story.
Thanks, Rob. Well, we're really small compared to these other guys. So we're 30 people. We've been going 13 years, so we've just turned into that really awkward teenager kind of company approach. But no, compared to Burrow and Future, who've grown enormously, we're relatively small, but pack a big punch, I think. So we're based in central Bath, right by the station, about 50 yards from the station. When we're there, everyone's working remotely again at the moment, and I guess that's typical of a lot of places. And we get involved in a lot of different activities in and around Bath. So it's great that this is a Bath Digital Festival. We were involved as sponsors of the very first one, and it's great just to see it really growing and progressing as a part of it. In terms of Rocket Makers, we work with startups, scale-ups, and bigger corporates. So we're software development and design company, really. We a little bit unusual in that we often work with startup businesses where people often don't have any money and often entrepreneurs who have great ideas. And we've invested over the last few years in about, certainly over 40 companies where we've come in alongside the founders to help build and grow those businesses. We've helped raise about 45 million plus into those sorts of businesses through external investment. So a reason for a small company, quite a big impact for startups that are there. We won a Queen's Award in 2018, which is fantastic. So that was predominantly around a project that we did with UK Sport and the English Institute of Sport. So we built the medical record system for the Olympic athletes in the UK. So they use our phone apps which record their training, their health, their diet, and all those sorts of things. And we try and make sure that they don't get ill and injured. And a shame Tokyo was pushed back because we were all ready to help try and make some impact in Tokyo, but maybe next year on that one. And then a lot of the startups that we work with really range from very, very local ones through to ones, certainly those in the US. We built apps for people like Zendesk, who were a startup, became a scale up, and then IPO'd hugely in San Francisco. But also, you know, a lot of our day-to-day stuff is very small startups, local people with interesting ideas that want to make it really happen. We've hired 9 people since the lockdown started. So from a team of you know, 30ish, we're you know, quite a big impact. There's a whole bunch of people that I've never met in person yet that have come into the business. That's been really interesting, and I don't think I would have thought we could possibly have done that you know, even a year ago. So that's been fascinating. And the last thing to say is we've been doing a lot of stuff with virtual reality, augmented reality. So a lot of what we do is very sort of innovative technology places, and we've been doing a really interesting Innovate UK grant project over the last 9-10 months now, which is all about how do you create an incredibly diverse virtual environments with content that's changing dynamically in those. So kind of a content management system, but for the future, if you like.
That's so exciting. That's a good one to end on too, I think. So in terms of your hires, that's such an interesting point that you haven't personally met all your team. But I think we're getting a wider story here, that there are companies in Bath that are growing, are successful, and are hiring, which I think is a really important message to get out to the sector. I think now we're about halfway through the session, so I think it'd be good to bring the whole panel together really now and start drilling a bit deeper about digital collaboration. So I think Shannon will start off with a question to the whole panel.
Yeah, so it's really interesting how you say that you're hiring people but not necessarily seeing them, and I think it's really important in 2020 to have that communication. So I'm really interested in sort of putting out there of how are you communicating and how are you embracing digital to actually get sort of talking to your teams, and whether productivity is enhanced. I just like to ask that question really. I don't know who would like to field that one.
I could follow up from so that, yeah. having started with you know, a bunch of new people. When the sort of the lockdown stuff with COVID started, we started thinking, well, we'd built our whole company and culture around everybody being in the office and helping each other on projects in the office. And so we don't outsource anything, and there's no offshore elements to what we do. So we just oriented everything about being in Bath in the same place and doing it. And I think the biggest challenge there was, you know, we're lucky in a sense because we're a digital only business, so we could all move away and do that. But then that just breaks all of the relationships and culture pieces that we'd put in place over the last decade. So we started doing a lot of stuff around, well, certainly every day we'd have a group call, midday every day, we get everybody on the call and say what everybody's doing. And it took a lot of time, you know, we'd take, you know, half an hour to an hour a day out of everyone's day, but just spent the time talking about things and doing it. That eventually became too much for everyone. So we kind of broke it down into, you know, a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and we still do that. But we also do a lot of stuff which is around, which is called using a tool called Donut, which is basically just ad hoc ways of people getting together. So every week, people sort of that want to sign up to this Donut tool, and it's integrated into Slack, and invites go out randomly for people just to get together and have a chat. So I think there's a whole bunch of business-centric stuff, and then there's just the personal contact with people that you need to do, and that's really helped us.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Actually, I haven't heard of Donut, so I'll have a look at that actually, and I'm sure people.
Just made a note.
Everyone was squibbling.
Yeah. So it's great, Claire.
I think I sort of following on from that, Richard. As head of culture, one of my a big part of my role is looking at our culture and our colleague engagement, and you know, it is a really big challenge now that, because similarly we were very office centric for the most part in terms of our culture and our community, and we have community like kind of groups in each of our offices who put on fun stuff, and so we to learn how we can recreate that without being physically present, and I don't think we've nailed it, to be honest. And I think you know, yeah, we've done all of the same sort of things that you're talking about. It's a lot harder to do with a larger business, and I kind of sometimes envy the smaller businesses that it's a lot easier to create those personal connections. But we've been leveraging some of the tools that we already have. So we're a Google house, and so we have Google Hangouts, and that's enabled us to do live streams and lunch and learns and kind of check-ins and that sort of thing. We pivoted our town hall online, so that's been done live stream, and actually kind of echoing a little bit about what Kat said, in that it's given us, being virtual has actually given us an opportunity to connect more globally. So, you know, when we would have ordinarily done town halls on an individual location basis, and now actually we get the whole business together and stream that virtually, and everybody has an opportunity to kind of chat and ask questions of the exec, and actually that's been fantastic compared, and I don't think that will change even if we do end up going back more into the offices. So, but it's a bit of a learning curve in terms of how you create the fun. So yeah, I'm going to go and Google donut.
Yeah, I think it's quite similar for us. Actually, we started using Teams. So that's we used to have Skype, and we moved over to Teams, and that's really been helpful because, you know, you've got drawing boards. You can really start creating sort of, or you can try creating creative environments, but it will never be the same as actually sitting together around a table and scribbling and you know, developing ideas. And I think it's a bouncing off one another with ideas and being inspired by just being with other people that's really missing for us at the moment. But saying that, you know, it does improve productivity many times for us, and a lot of travel is usually involved in our jobs. Working on these kind of projects, we spend a lot of time on trains and flights, and all of that has been cut out at the moment. So we do have more time to spend on the projects. We also seem to be spending a lot more time on meetings, especially internal meetings. Richard, like you were saying earlier, we started on daily catch-ups. We now have one every couple of days or something. Which has been really nice, and it's really important to just have a cup of tea and catch up, and you get to know your colleagues, your families, pets, children, all sorts of personal aspects that you wouldn't necessarily come across in a working environment. So that's been really nice. But yeah, time management is quite a challenge.
Yeah, I think that's a good point around the more meetings. I think you have to be more structured in your communications when everybody's working digitally, and it's something that that we've had to get better at with hiring as well, in terms of onboarding new colleagues, because that osmosis piece isn't there. You're not sat next, your new hire isn't sat next to you to just take things in or ask questions. So it's kind of, you have to be much more proactive and kind of structuring in time to ask questions or to have meetings when ordinarily you'd just pop around to somebody's desk or you'd have a chat at the kitchenette. So that's been quite challenging for a lot of us to kind of get used to that. I get a little bit of meeting fatigue as well, where you're constantly on Zooms and trying to take everything in.
Thanks, Claire. Bob, did you have an?
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, we've to just add to the conversation, I mean, we still do a 10 a.m. Zoom call. I've done that since the very first week, and we've actually kept it going, and sometimes it's extremely short, sometimes it's quite long, because we don't tend to have many others, so it just seems that's the time when we get together. But I'd agree, the whole, and I know, you know, we might be talking about the whole creative side of things, but it's not easy over Zoom and being apart. We've done the food parcels. We introduced, we offered some sort of counselling sessions, because I was really worried about people being on their own, and if they haven't got a family. And so I think it's making sure everybody's okay. They might not get that across. You don't pick up things on Zoom. You know, it's in the same with meetings and with your team. You don't pick up things. It's, even though you're staring at their face, it's quite interesting how you can't always pick up stuff. So that's been a bit of a concern. So we've sort of tried to make sure everybody's okay. And you know, we've had a sort of I do find though that whereas we might have had a phone call or a email tennis, you know, and trying to do things, I've ended up sort of saying, let's just have a Zoom call, and we've sorted something out quite quickly. So sometimes I found that very, very helpful. But you do get tired having Zoom call hour after hour after hour, so that it can be quite wearing. So I really miss seeing people that's on a, around, because I think culture is so important to build the company, build the teams, build the brand, everything. It's a lot of it is around culture, and if you build that by being together often, so it's it is that's a challenge, and I haven't heard an answer yet for how we're going to manage going forwards.
So certainly on that, what I'm hearing from the panel is that there are productivity gains that have been made from this shift to digital and online, but potentially there's some well-being impacts, but also impacts on creativity and that creative process of not being in a room together to just work on an idea and work that up. So I'd be really interested in, as a company, Richard, you talked about, utilizing VR and AR on a product, but in terms of bringing these kind of technologies in-house, has anyone tried adopting those technologies for creativity?
Yeah, I could talk to that. And also, I just noticed a question that Alison had in the chat there. So, Alison's question is about working with others through the day so you can have those odd chats and stuff. So we did that at the start. Just left a Google Hangout open that people would just be in and stuff. Because we kind of have this this mental model of our kitchen table in the office where people would just, want a break, they go around the kitchen table, and that's just a social place of having ad hoc conversations and stuff. So we kind of left the kitchen table room open all the time, and it was it was kind of useful, but it ended up being not used. So then we kind of didn't do it. So it was great for that sort of first thing where everyone was kind of, oh, this is new, novel, and how are we going to do it? But actually, it sort of fell into misuse or no use. So that was what we tried with that. On the VR front and stuff there. Yeah, I'm involved in the VR lab, which is a Bristol-based physical location, and it's been going for a couple of years around lots of small organisations that are doing interesting stuff with VR, and they've moved entirely from a physical space to an online virtual reality space now. So it was launched a couple of weeks ago, and it's really interesting. So you don't have to have the VR goggles; you can just use a laptop to go in and wander around. But it changes some of the dynamics, which are really good. So if there's a clump of people talking in a certain area, you start to walk towards them and you start to hear the volume of their voices, and you can start to gesticulate a little bit with your hands. Yes, you haven't got hands to wave around so much, but you've got a controller that you can say and point in different areas and things, which is it's not perfect, but it certainly adds a little bit to over and above what Zoom calls are. And we've been doing a little bit of research around that same sort of space for being able to move, almost like being able to move between breakout rooms and kind of be able to listen into something, so that you might think of a conversation you want to have. Our use case was every month we used to all go out to the pub on a regular day, and you just have, when you go out to the pub, even if you don't drink, you just be in a group of people, and you'd hear a conversation slightly over there, and you'd wander over there and be part of that conversation. We were thinking, how do we get that kind of dynamic into this? So I think we're moving in that direction, but it's all a bit clunky at the moment. So, but worth investigating.
I know our tech teams have managed to still have things like hack days virtually, and I actually don't know what tools they use, but I'm assuming that they've done that through Google and through Google Hangouts and kind of going away. And interestingly, actually, our tech teams, even when our offices reopened for a brief period, have not really come back into the office because they've enjoyed working remotely and have managed to switch over quite quickly and quite easily. They use Slack a lot as well to kind of create a little bit more of a conversational business communication, which we don't use universally across the business, but it works well in certain teams. But I know that some of our teams have managed to virtually recreate that sort of creative space, although kind of echo Rich, that it's a bit clunky. Until we got more used to it, maybe it'll continue to feel a little bit forced and a little bit over structured.
I think the dynamic aspect is really important, actually, because it does, it's very difficult to have this conversational chats because you always feel like you have to wait until the one person finished talking before the next person can start. Whereas obviously if you would sit in a room, it would be very, very different. We've been trying to use technology for quite some time now to enhance collaboration, because it's really important for us as an international business with international teams, etc. But I do think that COVID has actually accelerated a lot of that kind of collaboration online. So we've been using SharePoint and Teams and kind of clouds, where we started saving files and people can work simultaneously on the same files in PowerPoints and Excel spreadsheets and Word documents. And although that sounds quite basic, it's quite a challenge if you have that many different local servers across the world trying to collaborate in these platforms. But it really does enhance that kind of co-creation and working together. We, obviously the use of Teams and whiteboards and all these kind of tools all help, but it just isn't quite the same as sitting in a room together. We've been using VR and AR. We've got an in-house team who've developed a kind of software for it, and we've been using it to work together with clients on some of their design ideas, especially around accessibility, which is a really, really big topic again at the moment. And so we kind of recreated environments where people could try what it's like to access the venue that they're designing, especially in wheelchairs, etc. So you can really get a feel for it. But the problem is that it takes quite a long time for us to develop these kind of softwares and new designs. So it's not really being used at the moment as a day-to-day kind of tool for collaboration. But obviously that would be, that would be amazing if that's possible at some point. But at the moment, we're only using it for really big projects where those kind of aspects are really crucial.
It seems like a lot of this, we've had a real acceleration in terms of that shift to online. Some people are reporting, 10 years worth of movement in 6 months. The issue is our human behaviors and the way we create haven't caught up in the same way. So I think it's finding that technological solution to recreate that in a digital environment. Bob, I'd be interested in your take on that too.
Yeah, I mean, it's I agree with a lot of the comments. It's what I miss is we put a lot of stuff up on boards, and I walk around the studio, I see stuff on screens, stuff that others would reject, and I see something in it, and that's all obviously gone now. So I'm having to force okay, let's share stuff. So some enjoy sharing stuff on Slack and things like that, but we're having to get used to saying, what do we all think? How can we make it better? I'm having to sort of force that conversation. So it's sort of working, but I agree it's a little bit clunky at the moment. I have found in the with some of the downtime that we've had, we've been able to get some projects started that perhaps we would never have done before. So that's been, in some ways, it's been great, and we've tried things that we wouldn't have done before because we've had to and because we've had the time to do so. So that's been really good. I don't know whether some of you have heard of I went on an online conference the other day and used a platform called Remo, which was very interesting. It sort of, it gave a sort of similar look and feel to, you could see all the tables, you could join a table and you could click and join the table. I found that actually worked very, very well for a virtual conference. Obviously it's not the same thing, but it wasn't bad and it worked pretty well. So I was one of the presenters there, and I could recommend that to anyone who wanted to try. But yes, I think the getting the sort of making people and helping people be more creative, I think is we've still got a way to go, and I don't have an answer. Often people have ideas on the walk home away from the office, And again, the other problem I find is you wake up, you sit down at your laptop, you start walking, and if you don't get outside and walk away, you often don't have those ideas that you would do when you're walking home from work. Or, you know, it's just interesting how there's a lot of little things that we got used to doing that we're not doing now, and you almost have to force yourself to do things to make yourself more creative.
One of the interesting ones that you've just mentioned, Bob, is virtual events and conferences, because that's actually been quite a big one for us, because usually these big international conferences, you know, you pay £2,500, £3,000 for a delegate pass to send one person to attend for a couple of days. But now pretty much anyone can join, maybe for 100, 150 quid. So you can get a lot more people, especially the younger generation as well, to just attend some of these events, educate themselves, start networking on online platforms, etc. So this has actually been a really big winner for us to be able to just listen into a lot more of these kind of events than we usually would be able to.
And picking up on that point, one of the things that our business has done quite effectively is pivot. We used to run a lot of live events, and we have very quickly had to, we were dabbling, I think, in virtual events and in different platforms and how we might kind of move things that way. And then overnight, we've had to transform quite a lot of things like the photography show that would have been a massive NEC exhibition, and start to leverage different platforms to do that, and to recreate conference halls virtually, and create different experiences. And interestingly, we've also launched new events through those platforms that we wouldn't have necessarily been able to have done before, because, as you say, Katja, you know, you don't have to rely on really expensive ticketing, and you can therefore open it up to more people globally. And our advertisers have still been really keen to support those events as well, because it's good for their profiles as well. So what we thought would be a really challenging time, and it has been for our events business, is also given us an opportunity to be creative and do different things, which has been really interesting.
I need to pick up with you on that, Claire, afterwards, because I guess our kind of virtual reality content management thing that is still in development is one of the interesting things on that for us around COVID has been the events industry, which has been decimated in physical events. And we've been talking to a bunch of events companies who just don't see the future ever being full people events again. They certainly see it as a hybrid. They may well still want to have people go to venues and do that, but they're always going to have to offer some digital variant of that now, which is great because it opens it up much more for people to be engaged with it. That's good.
Yeah. We'll pick up offline. I can connect you with our head of events. There you go. Collaboration happening.
Fantastic. And the other thing, just to throw in, whiteboarding has been the biggest thing, as Bob says, for us, that we just used to do it everywhere. Every room had whiteboards on every wall, and we were just part of that. So we've been using a tool called Miro, and for kind of online whiteboarding and stuff. And it's actually been, I think it's been incredibly effective for us. It's the fluidity of just having everybody being able to be in the same boards and add things and move things and feel like it's not the same, but it's the closest that we've got to that kind of real collaborative experience of feeling like you're at least working on the same whiteboard and doing stuff. And also, because there's lots of different boards, you can go and browse boards in the way that Bob's done in the past and that I used to do. It's not as good, but it's certainly worth a look.
Thanks so much, Richard. I think we had loads of hints and tips and suggestions there from everyone, so thank you very much. I had a question really, which brings it back to Bath, and my question's really about how you describe Bath as a creative and digital hub, really what its strengths are, and how do you foresee COVID affecting this going forwards? So if anyone would like to give their thoughts on that.
I mean, the universities are really, really key factor in this. I think as a location, we have the Bath and the Bristol universities, which are all very, very strong and big players. And I think they're absolutely key to the future of the cities, really, and the future generations of employment and businesses in the region. So for us, it's, you know, really, really important to have local universities here and student placements and graduates, etc. So that's probably one of the big ones I would mention.
Yeah, I'd echo that. And Bath, Bristol and the Southwest in general has fantastic creative and digital education, which is a real draw for students, and therefore I think makes places like Bath and Bristol really exciting to be in from a creative and digital space.
Yeah,
I think that, sorry, Bob, after you.
Oh, right. I was just going to add, I mean, things like the West of England Design Forum and Creative Bath. I mean, I would sort of attended, Greg still ran his live Creative Bath Awards a few months ago, did a great job. I think those sorts of clusters and organisations to build the Bath community and creative community are still extremely important. And it's always, it's been going for a very long time. And I think we need to encourage that and work together to sort of, we've got to sort of make those sorts of things happen. I think that's sort of really, really important. And I was also, yeah, just to sort of say that it's, at the end of the day, it's still a great place to live. And I still get lots of emails from people moving out of London, probably more so now, because they want that work-life balance. And I would say a lot of the people I've employed over the years, and I've employed a lot less than many of you, the others on the panelists, have come here because they want a great work-life balance. And I think that's what Bath offers. You know, it's a wonderful place to live, but it's also got a thriving creative culture here and community, and some great businesses that I just don't think a lot of people realise, and was really the point about the Bath Unlimited site. So.
There's a thriving entrepreneurial culture in Bath as well, whether that's independent shops and retail and cafes, but also in terms of the businesses and the kind of more corporate activity as well. It's something that I see daily in Bath, which I think is really exciting. And I think there is a huge opportunity for us as a city, with people migrating out of big cities and wanting to have that lifestyle change, which I used to work in talent acquisition before in this role, so I used to see a lot of that happening already, and I think COVID will have really accelerated people's desire to no longer be in London, and we'll be looking at places like Bath as very desirable places to up and move to, which is a really exciting opportunity, I think, for the city.
Yeah, I think I'd echo some of the university stuff and also the colleges and other sort of academic providers like Maiden. You know, we've from developers' perspective, we've recruited people who have come from very different backgrounds rather than the traditional sort of university route into being software developers and designers through that. And actually, that's one of the things in the Bath, the Economic Recovery Board, which is where sort of this stuff stemmed from, and those of us that are involved in that, it includes the two universities in Bath and Bath College, and there's an initiative called iStart, which is going on, which is all looking at how to try and help train and retrain people into careers where there are real opportunities when some sectors are really facing difficulties at the moment. So worth looking at iStart and seeing what's happening as a collaboration between all of the Bath education organisations that are going on with that at the moment. And I guess you sort of mentioned, Claire, the Bristol word, which is, I think, is always, when you're in a Bath Unlimited thing, should you even mention
words,
Bristol?
Sorry.
But no, I think it's really interesting, and it's certainly one that I raised, is that quite a lot of people live and in and around Bristol who work in Bath and there, and actually that's a huge benefit of having maximising the fact we're not that far away as cities. There's different opportunities and things in those cities that we really should make the most of. And then the last thing I'd say is that actually organisations like Borough and Future, Future particularly, as I see in the digital space, there's been so many creative agencies that have come out of people who have a background and started in Future, and it's those businesses that many of those that are in the sort of the 20 unlimited businesses on the site at the moment, that have actually, it's not just those businesses, it's all the people and other businesses that they've spawned that has created a whole community for that. And I think that's where Bath is, it's just really rich in that creative opportunity from things.
I think that's
oh, sorry.
Okay,
you go, Rob.
You go.
No, I was just going to say the iStart project is really exciting. I think it's a really great initiative. And I think there are a lot of these kind of developments happening at the moment in the city as well. So, lots of new developments, enterprise zones, the Bath Quays developments, looking at repurposing high streets and pedestrianizing high streets and just making it a more enjoyable place. And lots of cafes have started with tables and chairs outside and squares, and it's a really, really communal space. And yeah, it's really exciting to see all these positive developments here.
Places are adapting much like businesses, so we are starting to see that. And I think, thank you for your thoughts and comments on that question. I think certainly from a talent perspective, we're looking to retain as much talent in the local area. It's great to have some of our key businesses expanding, doing well and hiring. So I think there's a big point about how we can make sure our local residents get the skills, have the retraining opportunities. And as a council, we're working very hard on some schemes to make that actually happen. I've just seen one last question's come in. So what's the position of Bath in terms of diversity? I know most businesses have a policy. So certainly the council has a strong equalities diversity policy. Most large corporates would have that too. So I don't know if anyone else wanted to come in on that, Claire.
Yeah, I mean, the inclusion and diversity is another stream, I suppose, that I'm responsible for at Future, and we're looking internally, but also one of the things I love about Future is that we also feel our own responsibility to influence that externally as well, and recognizing where there might be diversity challenges, and kind of not just accepting that there isn't, that the diversity isn't there. It's like, well, what can we do about it? Where can we invest as a business into charities or organizations that support the growth of talent, identifying talent that maybe comes from different underrepresented backgrounds in our sector or in our regions. And so we're working, we're looking to work with partners to kind of do that early identification, and kind of try and break the cycle that some of our industry has, particularly media and tech, it's quite we're early days in some of those programs, but really excited to see how we can kind of start to engage with young people and really give them an insight into what careers they have available to them, and then support them to get the confidence and the skills to be able to access those careers.
Yeah, I think that's a really good, oh, sorry, Rob. I think it's a really good point just to say that it's because of these amazing businesses that Bath has actually become one of the most progressive cities in the UK. It was named just this week. And I think diversity-wise, it's just amazing that Claire, you can, and others can do things like that with diversity. And it was named because of the sort of gender pay gaps and diversity studies and things like that. So I think Bath is doing really well on that sort of thing.
And on that very positive note, I think, conscious of time, we'll have to wrap this webinar up. So firstly, I'd like to thank the panel for joining us all today and contributing so thoughtfully. Got so many ideas, hints and tips from you all. So really appreciate you coming on. And thanks to the audience for joining us as well, and your questions. I would say do keep following the Bath Unlimited campaign, the website. We've got featured companies on the site, featuring a different company each week, and it'll be growing in the new year as well. Likewise, if you do have any questions, we have a contact us section on the website, which is bathunlimited.org. So do get in touch, but for now, I'd like to say goodbye from me and the panel, and wish you a very happy rest of the festival. Thanks very much.
Thanks Rob. Thanks everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.